Take my advice. Broads don't belong in broadcasting.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Sarah.
We did it. We did the intros, guys, and it wasn't stilted or weird at all. So this episode, because of the allegations of sexual assault, rape, misconduct, harassment, etc., that have been coming out basically hourly in the past 3 weeks or so, we decided that now is a good time to talk about the rape kit backlog, because dealing with trying to do something proactive regarding sexual harassment and assault is pretty tricky. There isn't anything in place that's like referencing that specifically. Rape, though, you can find issues, bills, etc., and cases to support. So this was where we decided to take it in order to feel like we're doing something, because you know, you could do the Me Too hashtag all you want, but chances of your representative reading that and caring are pretty slim. So this is what we've decided to do. So today, Sarah's going to share some of the information that she collected and wrote a very interesting article on Bill Track 50 for, and I shared that in the newsletter, and it will be on the website also if y'all want to click through to see the whole thing. And Karen's going to give us some historical facts, because that's her jam. So take it away, Miss Sarah.
Cool. So, I wrote a post about how the backlog situation in the United States with rape kits is absolutely horrific. And the post kind of talks a little bit about sexual assault in general, which is what I want to cover first. So just to break things down for people, every 98 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. The difference in the definition between rape and sexual assault is rape is forced sexual intercourse, including both a physical coercion as well as physical force. And forced intercourse means penetration, and it's male, female victims, heterosexual, transgender, all people can be raped. And then sexual assault is a wide range of victimizations that are separate from rape or attempted rape. They're crimes like being attacked or kind of any type of unwanted physical altercation that involves unwanted sexual contact between two people or more. A lot of these are grabbing and fondling, so common phrases are like forcible fondling and other things like that. And then out of every 1,000 rapes, 310 are reported. 57 of them lead to an arrest. 11 of them are referred to prosecutors. 7 have a felony conviction, and 6 rapists are incarcerated. So obviously, it's a really underreported issue.
Wait, out of 106 actually wind up in jail.
1,000.
No, out of 1,000.
1,000.
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000.
Holy moly.
So 0.6%.
Right.
So yeah, that's, obviously what we've been noticing lately with everything breaking since Weinstein is that this is a unbelievably underreported crime in the United States. And we talked about this a lot on our Title IX podcast about how the underreporting is actually one of the bigger issues when it comes to rape rather than false accusations. And we talked about false accusations within the scope of college, but also within the scope that we just talked about. Only 2 people out of 1,000 are falsely accused. So again, it's less than the 2 to 6% that Just from NYU on Campus was quoting. This is 0.2%. So again, very important. And then when we talk about rape kits, they can cost between $500 and $2,000 to be tested. And a lot of hospitals don't actually have the capabilities to test rape kits. So it can be really hard for victims who are trying to go in and get their rape test done if they are not given appropriate attention. They don't have anybody that is trained. Nurses can be trained in a way that helps them deal with sexual assault cases. And a lot of this has to do with psychological training and being caring and supportive to victims and, not victim shaming or slut shaming or anything like that. Just being a good ally to a victim while they are getting a kit. So
it's also important to know the laws of the state and what the state will do for you. Because I heard a lot of horror stories about like nurses saying, well, we can do this, but you're going to be charged for it.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So you got to know what the facts are as well as have some semblance of humanity in your bedside manner. Right?
And
right.
yeah, those nurses are called SANE nurses, and it's sexual assault nurse examiner. And, you know, there's like horror stories of people having to wait 9 hours and going to 3 different emergency rooms and, you know, stuff like that. That's just after going through something like that.
Of people in that position. Oh, Sarah. Break my heart.
Yeah. So those are, you know, pretty horrible, obviously. And so there's a big movement across the United States to try to get all of these rape kits that are not tested before the statute of limitations runs out. And, you know, I've written posts called the statute of silence, which is, you know, about how the statute of limitation for rape is a lot lower than for other things. And that's a main issue, but also women who do try to proceed forward in legal action and bringing their cases to prosecutors are having issues because their kits aren't getting tested or they're not being handled correctly, and it's just not being taken as seriously as an issue as it is. So that's another big issue. So they have a lot of different states that, you know, Ohio found that a quarter of their serial offenders had samples previously submitted from other sexual assault cases, and it wasn't leading to an arrest because none of the kits were getting tested. So then they were able to go out and rape more people. And, you know, rape is one of those things where serial offenders are way more common than pretty much anything else because it is underreported, and our societal culture allows for rape culture to exist still. So that's one thing that makes me very hopeful with everything that's happened with Weinstein. And, you know, obviously this pertains to Hollywood, but I think it pertains obviously way more to the normal person, and being able to stand up for yourself before it gets to a sexual assault or rape instance, and, you know, being able to really put your foot down and understanding that people are there to support you and to really work through it. So that's a thing that I find really positive about this whole shebang. So there's a lot of different legislation out where they're trying to get funding for rape kits. So that's one of the most important things is if you feel really moved by this, try to find a place that takes funding. There is the End the Backlog is one that is specifically geared towards funding the processing of rape kits. But, you know, there's a whole bunch of bills that are trying to give funding for that. So Texas has over 2,000 backlogs to kits. Utah has some that require that they need to process them within 30 days. And again, they can have these kind of days restrictions, but if there's not money to cover that $500 to $2,000 cost that these rape kits do cost, then it's not really going to help. So that's kind of the general landscape of the issue.
So, and this is what, like, there are so many reasons why this frustrates me, but when you're talking about, like, serial rapists who are allowed to continue walking around because nobody tested these kits, a lot of what, like, women are often pressured to come forward when they don't feel comfortable coming forward because of, well, do you want this to happen to somebody else? And then you'll know that you never said anything. But these women did come forward, and it didn't matter. And how, like, putting yourself in an incredibly vulnerable position by allowing them to collect the samples for the kit in the first place. Like, that in itself is really traumatizing, again, for women. Yeah. And just to think that you went through all of that in the hopes that you're going to be keeping this from happening to someone else, and then putting yourself through it for no reason in the end.
Well, and let's remember that there is, on average, 690 women that don't come forward. And, you know, if it was made into a more positive experience, and by positive, I mean supportive, but, you know, having more sane nurses and having a better protocol set up for women. So when someone does come in, that they do get more immediate attention than other people, because this is a very delicate issue, and definitely making sure that the people who are taking the kits understand that emotional support is one of the most important things. And, understanding what kind of phrases not to say. Like when I was in college, one of my friends got raped and I brought her into the nurse, and the nurse said, "Oh, another one of you from a frat formal." And she was a woman and she was a nurse, and I was trying to check my friend in. Don't worry, she got fired. But
God,
yes,
Jesus.
and she was at a health center out of college. And it's just having the training of understanding, that is horrific that there is another one in there. And maybe that's what she meant, but that's not what she said. And, kind of trying to understand the right way to talk to people, because this is something where there is clearly a right and a wrong way to address the issues and what's happening.
And then after you get through it, if justice could get done, well, that would sure help everybody's state of mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the bill we picked out to support for this issue is called the SAFER Act, which is Sexual Assault Forensic Evidence Reporting Act. The House version is 3541 and the Senate version is 1766. So you can call your senator or your congressman, depending on who you are more familiar with. The point of it is publishing best practices. So it's trying to encourage people to share data in between states, which is great. It's amending the Debbie Smith DNA Backlog Grant Program, which I'll talk about in a second, and then reauthorizing the DNA Analysis Backlog Elimination Act, which of 2000. So it's saying we're going to go ahead and put that money back in place to help eliminate the backlog so the federal government can do their part in contributing a little bit of money. So obviously I was curious who Debbie Smith was, that she got a grant program named after her, and you can guess, and it is what you think. So brace yourself. In 1989, a man wearing a ski mask entered her home, threatened her with a gun, dragged her into the woods, and raped her repeatedly for an hour. She then participated in collection of DNA evidence for a rape kit, but it wasn't tested until 1994. So it happened in 89. So that's 5 years later. So in 1995, a DNA technician identified her attacker while analyzing various records. He was already in jail, but he got sentenced to 161 years in prison under the 3 strikes law. So there's one guy that got caught and is done. And it's too bad it took 5 years because he wound up abducting and robbing other women. So she's kind of the patron saint of let's not have this happen anymore. I think Natasha would approve based on her expression while Sarah was speaking. So the Debbie Smith Act provides United States federal government grants to eligible states and units of local government to conduct DNA analysis on backlogged DNA samples collected from victims of crimes. And it was reauthorized in 2008 and 2014. So right now it's good through the end of 2019. So that is something that's good news. Like that got done, that got passed, and it is currently providing funding. What this is doing is reauthorizing another program they've got aimed very much at the DNA analysis backlog. So it's a good bill. It's got several good things in it. I thought that it was one that we could support. Mm-hmm. And then RAINN, RAINN, RAINN.org, they have some things to take action on this topic. They've got a script for us and all of that. But I, of course, wrote my own script. So, Tasha, what would you like to throw in about things to know about the backlog? I know you have some thoughts.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was covered by Sarah. Again, in the newsletter, I linked to her article. So that was where I got most of my information on this one. So I don't really have all that much to add except frustration, basically. Like, it's just the fact that there's somebody a medical professional that Sarah ran into who should be trained in how to deal with this kind of thing, and who works on a college campus, like with people who are young and vulnerable, and just does not have any bedside manner. Isn't even the word. Common sense, for Christ's sake,
humanity,
you know?
empathy.
Yeah, there's and one could say, well, she was just saying that there was more than one case of this. Well, she said it with the tone that implies, why are you going to these parties?
Mm-hmm. Why are you doing something that is your fault?
Right.
And I do want to say, just based off of, the patron saint of the movement, that it is important to remember that most people are raped by people that they know or are in relative contact with. It's not always a scary ski mask wearing person that drags you into the woods. And I think that re-establishing the definition of rape rather than something that you're walking home at night and a crazy person comes and gets you, which is obviously still rape, but that is such a low percentage of the actual cases that women go through. And trying to define it as something that is like so horrific and scary that it belongs in the television show isn't fair. And understanding that definition needs to change is, I think, very important to the overall conversation.
Good point, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that the overall definition of rape is something, because people will get annoyed when you bring up the idea of rape culture. Saying that phrase, people get really defensive and they're like, what do you mean rape culture? Everybody knows rape is wrong. Yep. Maybe they know rape is wrong, but they don't know what rape is.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. And just even in what I do for my show, when I'm covering plot lines where somebody is raped, it can be really fraught because sometimes it feels like it's really gratuitous or used as some sort of like character development thing instead of, it being addressed as something that is incredibly traumatic. And I will get frequently men messaging me or emailing me claiming that what had happened wasn't actually rape.
Well, that's why I wanted to read the definition of rape at the beginning of this, because it is forced penetration, and forced penetration can happen with somebody that you know.
Well, and that's like the case that I'm most recently thinking of was a show where the guy claimed, well, it wasn't rape because she had used to be in love with him and she still loved him, and the man who did it loved her.
Yeah,
you could never do that. And like the whole idea that loving somebody precludes you from abusing them is just so foolish and fundamentally missing the point that it's just this kind of thing. And it's frequently dudes, but women are just as guilty a lot of the time of it's internalized misogyny, basically. They were brought up thinking that this was acceptable and this wasn't. And if the woman who was doing something that fell in the unacceptable category, well, then that's kind of on her, isn't it? No, it's not. I think educating people on what rape actually is, things like stealthing, which we've talked about before too, is considered rape. And a lot of people want to argue about that. If somebody agreed to have sex with a condom because it protects them from deadly infections and diseases, that is not the same thing as agreeing to have sex without one. And so if someone removes it and doesn't tell them, they are exposing them to dangers that they did not consent to. There are a lot of different instances where we're really starting to acknowledge what kinds of marital rape is another one. It used to be that you couldn't rape your wife because that's what she's there for, right? And now we're finally in an age where that's being acknowledged, but there are still plenty of people who were like, well, I mean, but she was his wife though. So really, why didn't she just what?
That's where you get the phrase legitimate rape. That's not.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can't end rape today, but based on Sarah's solid mathematics, we may end 25% of rape today. And I think that's a good start.
Yes.
So let's do that, shall we, ladies?
Let's do it.
All right. Who wants to call who?
I'm not calling first this time.
Okay.
Got it.
Looks like I'm in. All right. So I was going to call my Congresswoman, Diana Duguette, who does an amazing job on women's issues. And I feel like she should be able to get behind this one and possibly even sponsor it and help it get just that much further. So let's give her a little ringy-dingy. If I can remember how to use my phone. Because who uses their phone for calls, really?
And that's part of why we started doing this, isn't it? Because we were just like, nobody likes to do that anymore. Nobody's doing this.
Well, it's true, and it just matters, and everything we've seen is this is what counts. Hello, it's great to talk to you. I'm so glad that you're there. Called about a bill to share my opinion. All right. So my name is Karen Suhaka, and I am in Denver, 80203. Do you need any other information from me?
No, that's fine.
Okay, great. So I am actually calling about HR 3541, the SAFER Act for eliminating the rape kit backlog is the part I care about. So with all the latest news about sexual harassment and assault by public figures, as we start thinking about the new budget, I would like to make sure money is set aside to help tackle the backlog of rape kits in our country. Colorado is doing an especially amazing job in this area, officially eliminating our backlog in 2016, resulting in 700 leads for police. So last year, we also increased the statute of limitations on rape kit cases, which I think is great. So we should leverage local successes as examples to lead the way in the national level. So specifically, please vote for HR 3541, which reauthorizes the DNA Analysis Backlog Elimination Act, among other things. You might even consider sponsoring this bill, as Bennett has done on the Senate version. I've also really admired Congresswoman's record on women's health issues, which is part of why I voted for her time after time. So I feel like tackling this issue is related and could have a really positive impact on the world. All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye. I went try a compliment approach.
Sarah, would you mind muting yourself when I do my call? Because I couldn't hear the woman chatting on her end.
I couldn't either.
For some reason, the background noise is like overpowering the rest. I think it might just be like the kind of mic on that headset.
Well, she was delightfully polite. So,
all right, good, cool. All right, so I'm going to be calling Representative Ratcliffe. I like to call him mostly because I actually wind up getting a person.
Yep.
So
but you know, Cornyn sub-sponsored this bill on the Senate side, right?
No, I didn't know that. Oh,
Did
well, that's
he?
lovely.
I think he did. He's good on this stuff.
SAFER was the one that he sponsored?
I think so.
Nice.
I'll double check while you call Ratcliffe. Yes, he is. Lead sponsor.
Awesome. All right, so.
Come on, person.
Hi, my name is Natasha Kingston. I'm a constituent from Denison. I wanted to share my opinion on a bill.
Sure, and will you spell your last name for me?
Sure, KINGSTON.
Okay, let me get to database here. Make sure. I think you've called before, so I think pretty sure you're in here.
Yes, I have.
Okay, great. And so, what is your opinion?
Okay, so I was calling to ask Representative Ratcliffe to support HR 3541, the SAFER Act of 2017, to fund the budget for covering rape kit testing. Across the country, more than 100,000 rape kits have gone untested. And there are a very high number of repeat offenders and serial rapists that don't wind up getting caught until after they have several victims in their wake. And I think that this is really important, especially in light of the fact that we have a lot more a focus on sexual assault in the past few weeks of celebrities coming out. I would really appreciate it if you would be on the lookout to support this, and possibly increase funding even would be really helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye. Yay.
Couple positive things in there.
Yeah.
Who do you have in mind, Sarah?
I'm calling Corey.
Do it.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Senator Gardner's office. This is Tom. What can I do for you?
Hi, I wanted to share my opinion on a bill.
Go ahead.
I wanted to share my opinion on a bill.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Sarah Johnson, and my zip code is 80211. And I wanted to ask Senator Gardner to support Senate Bill 80. In light of the recent news regarding Harvey Weinstein, it's really helped shed a light on an issue that affects people nationally and globally every year. And this bill is a step forward to not only representing and respecting the people in Hollywood who projected this issue into the national spotlight, but also all people who are subjected to this kind of abuse every day. Giving states these grants to process the backlogged rape kits is one of the most important things we can do to support all of our people who have to deal with this kind of inappropriate behavior and work towards ending a society that allows rape culture to exist. And I just really think that the SAFER Act of 2017 is the first step of many steps towards making it a safer and more inclusive society. And I really hope that the senator will advocate for this act and definitely vote for it.
Okay. Got you down. I appreciate you calling.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yay!
We got you down. Got you down, Sarah.
All right, cool. Well, everyone, sorry that we missed last week. Technical difficulties. Listen, yes, last week, I wound up having to cancel 2 of my podcasts too because I was having these issues. I don't know what's going on. So we are not alone. But
Well, we got Sarah back, so that's the plus.
yes, we are back, and I feel really good about this one. It feels like there's a really solid goal here. And Karen, didn't you have a couple good news things that you wanted to share?
Oh, yeah. So Sarah harkened back to a previous episode, the Title IX episode, which is relevant to this one. I don't have any good news on that front. But we also called about CHIP funding, and it appears to be moving forward, but with a couple problematic things tacked onto it because, of course, they did that. But at least there's some progress there. And then, Natasha, you had one?
Oh, yes. Well, and this one's kind of a similar thing where it was a mixed bag. It turns out, and I'm trying to find the exact bill but the news, because I shared it on the broadcast Facebook page, which you should all be following, facebook.com/WeTheBroadcast.
Don't use Facebook. Don't trust them.
Karen has not yet given in to the inevitable, but eventually it'll happen once they replace your brain with pod parts. So they have blocked Trump's ban on transgender people in the military. It's partially blocked. It turns out that the ban itself wouldn't be able to come into play for another year or so anyway. And at the moment, the factors, the breadth of the exclusion, the unusual circumstances surrounding the president's announcement of them, which is a really interesting thing to bring up that I didn't know would be taken into account as a factor, and the reasons given for them do not appear to be supported by any facts. And the recent rejection of those.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, sorry. I missed what you said, Karen.
Just the fact that he was lying, apparently, is also relevant.
Yeah. And the recent rejection of those reasons by the military itself strongly suggests that plaintiff's Fifth Amendment claim is meritorious. And the plaintiff in this case is the National Center for Lesbian Rights and the GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders, GLAAD. So despite the denial of the injunction on the ban, they told reporters that transgender service members will be able to receive all medically necessary care, and clarify that this is because the end of the ruling says the military's policy will, quote, revert to the status quo, unquote, before Trump policy, which includes covering surgery. So, for the moment, we're still fighting. But for the moment, that is where we stand on that. And that's really, apparently facts matter somewhere still. Yay.
In court.
That's very encouraging.
I know Sarah's got to get back to class, and it looks like we've got a tiny Cheryl cameo right at the end.
Yes, I am calling from my bed today. I'm really under the weather.
All right. Well,
so I may just kind of listen in if that's okay.
Well, did you know we moved a half hour earlier? We're just finishing.
You're just finishing?
We'll get you in the loop.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought Karen had said that you would email her about it.
Oh, maybe.
I think it's just not on my calendar that way because I put it in my calendar. So,
okay,
I'll change it.
But yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am. But you can still make your call.
But you can be anti-rape if you want, or pro-rape. Probably anti-rape.
I think I would be anti-rape.
Let's not offer up that second option.
All right, it's unanimous. 4 out of 4 ladies agree.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good work today.
Thank you for coming. Sorry about the scheduling mix-up. But we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.